Hello, 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 you outrageous humans. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Lady Grey Live. Happy Wednesday. All right, well, I'm excited about today. This is one of my favorite topics. I have so much to say about it. So I'm going to dive in. Let me know if you have any trouble hearing me or seeing me or if there are any technical issues. I am Lady Grey, if you don't already know me. I'm the lucky leader of this outrageous league of incredible, fantastic women. I also am a transformation coach for emerging feminine leaders that are seeking more, right? That are on a journey of personal rediscovery and embracing feminine power. So, in today's episode of Lady Grey Live, we are talking for about 10 minutes about transformational leadership. What it is, why it's at the core of my coaching, how it applies to you, right? And so if you're catching this on the replay, comment, thanks Debbie, comment that you're catching it on the replay so I know that you are here. And if you're here live, you know that I love interaction, so please feel free to drop any comments or questions kind of throughout the episode. All right, let's dive in. So the world that we live in right now was designed by men. I think we can all agree on this. Our workplaces, our religious organizations, our political practices, right? And yet we kind of find ourselves as women trying to evolve, right, as individuals and members of our communities and everything. And when we begin to get to a place where we have some leadership opportunity, whether that's, inside our friendships or leading an entire corporation, we come up against our leadership style. And that doesn't necessarily fit the way that our systems are designed, which is transactionally. We'll talk about that in a minute. So we typically do like one of three things when this happens, right? We either shut down, right? We just become passive. We try to kind of remain neutral. So we aren't really engaged or disengaged, but we're just sort of treading water. Or we fight and we push to kind of swim upstream. And oftentimes we're either emotional or we're perceived as aggressive or whatever. And we end up being ineffective because of it. Right? So let me know in the chat. I'm going to try. I had a little poll. We'll see if it works. Activate poll. Debbie, let me know if that goes. If it pops up in everybody's feed. Let me know in the chat how you recognize yourself in those behaviors. Maybe you're a mom and it comes out in your leadership at home with your kids. Maybe you're a mid-level manager who is kind of being told she's too emotional to be an executive. Maybe even like your suggestions are shot down at your local church meeting and you aren't included in decision making. It could be inside your friendships, where you feel a sense of obligation or reciprocity all the time, right? Where it's transactional. They invite you over for a dinner party and you feel obligated to reciprocate, right? So drop a comment if the poll isn't working or oh, good, the poll is appearing. All right, so drop a comment or reply to the poll. Let me know whether you're passive or you're neutral or you're kind of more of a fighting response. So as we're kind of talking about these responses, it's important to talk about transformational leadership and how it can actually change our world, our worlds, our little worlds, right? Our personal world, the way that we experience it, because it allows us to become more innovative, more accepting, more human, right? More empowering for people. And I don't know about you, but I feel like we're all here to kind of change the world for our daughters and our granddaughters and, future generations of women to come. There are plenty of us in this group. We can make a ripple, right? The good news about all of this is that women are naturally endowed with some of these transformational tools and skills. They come to us very naturally. And that can change the global mindset that we've got going. So I want to talk about what transformational leadership is to start. So transformational leaders are able to identify change that's needed. They're able to create a vision to kind of guide that change. And then they allow their behaviors to influence followers, people that trust them, and to inspire them to kind of perform beyond what they perceive their capabilities might be, right? So transformational leadership really inspires people to, achieve unexpected or kind of remarkable things, remarkable results, outrageous results, if you will, right? And it gives those followers autonomy. It gives them a feeling of authority, a positive change in attitude. If we're talking about the workplace or an organization, like a lot of times that positive change in attitude in individuals then transfers over to an entire organization, and there's a shift in the attitude of the organization, right? So the behaviors I'm talking about, the behaviors of a transformational leader, usually revolve around four things. They're kind of called the 4 I's. The first is inspiration. The second is influence. The third is intellect or intellectual stimulation, right? Encouraging critical thought, creativity. And the fourth is individuality or individual consideration, treating people like people and not just employees or somebody that you're obligated to have a relationship with. And so the reason that I get so excited about all of this is because it works, right? The world's changing, the world's evolving. We've got things like, quiet quitting and AI and artificial intelligence and a number of other factors that are affecting our way of life. They're changing and shifting. And so we need to lean into a couple of things. The first would be innovation, right? We are going to have to find creative solutions to a lot of things. And it's going to become our currency, right? Innovation is going to be extremely valuable. And transformational leadership is the second, right? Because that is what enables us to get to those creative solutions. And so that is why transformational leadership is at the core of my coaching, right? Because it permeates all these different areas of our lives, not just work. And, a lot of you have worked with me before, whether it was, a retreat or one-on-one coaching or whatever, but I just want to take a moment and explain kind of my coaching practice and the pillars that I use and how they sort of relate to this, right? So why do I focus on this so much? Well, whether it's been in a retreat that you've figured this out or group mentoring or whatever, the focus has to be on your own personal development first, right? This is why I do what I do, right? Leaders have to start with themselves in order to be effective leaders. So the things that I focus on with people in order to get them to a place of embracing transformational leadership, right, is starting first with their own unique identity, their authentic personal presence, becoming a vessel of connection, of love, of practicing self-love, moving into, listening to our inner wisdom, right? Finding mind, body, and spirit alignment. So we're coming from a good place and we're grounded in our decision making. Understanding our feminine power, which a lot of times has been kind of stripped away from us, or we've been afraid to step into our greatness, right? Understanding that, and then balancing our masculine and feminine energy, which are both useful to us as leaders. Dreaming and creativity, having life vision for yourself, right, in order to be inspirational to other people. Charting a path of your own kind of personal fulfillment and what your legacy building might be like. Committing to personal evolution as an individual, as a member of your society and your community, a voice in culture, a leader, right? And then leveraging your unique genius, your gifts, your superpowers to thrive as a transformational leader and to change the world, right? So we have to start with ourselves. So we're at the end of the year, right? And I don't know about you guys. I'm making cookies and things like that in the next couple of weeks, probably, right? So as you're spending time just sort of, stirring the cookie dough, I want you to think about things like your values, your personal values, your personal life vision, not your intentions for this coming year necessarily, not that micro, but actually a more macro view, right? Have you done the work? That's my question for you. Just ask yourself, have I done the work? Or is there something that I actually kind of need to dig into and want to give it some thought over the next few weeks as I ease into 2023, right? We're not trying to kill ourselves getting all of this figured out in the next week or two, right? Give yourself a lot of grace here and realize that it takes some time and some work. How all of this applies to you specifically, right? Some of you might be able to make the connection real easily, right? You can see it. You're already maybe a mid-level manager trying to become an executive, a C-suite, right? And so conversations around leadership styles and things like that are already part of your vernacular, right? But if you're just listening to this and you're not sure exactly how you're a leader, I want you to think about that. Where in your life are you a leader? Is it inside your family, whether that's your partner and your kids, or whether that's like your siblings and your parents? Is it within your friendships, your community, your faith organization, your church, your temple, your work, your hobbies, right? Maybe you're on a sports team or something like that and you have a leadership role there. How are you showing up in those situations? How are you showing up as a leader? Are you showing up as a transactional leader, right? Where it's about reward and consequence. I know I'm very transactional with my children, right? And a lot of times I have to remind myself that they need a transformational parent, right? And that yes, there's value to teaching lessons and reward and consequence, but there's also a lot of value to empowering them to be creative and to inspire them, to show them the way, right? Think about how you're showing up. Are you transactional? Are you transformational? Okay, so as you're focusing kind of first on your vision, right? Also ask yourself this week or through the end of the year, how can I be more inspiring to the people who trust me? And you can drop that in the chat. How can you be more inspiring to people? Maybe it's lead by example, right? Stand up for your personal values if you're clear on what they are. Speak for yourself. Don't shy away from challenging situations, right? Handle things with compassion. Handle things with grace. Act fairly. Act with fairness. Take responsibility for things that you ought to take responsibility for. Admit faults when it's appropriate. Communicate clearly with people. Follow up with action. And really just aim to make a difference, right? And so when we begin with ourselves, when we think about inspiration, we can lay a foundation that can help other people see their path to coping with stress, to connecting kind of with their own strengths and identifying what those might be, uplifting their spirit, right? And that enthusiasm that you bring to the table, that empathy for other human beings and your own integrity can really, really, really go a long way. So to recap, transformational leadership is about inspiration, it's about influence, it's about intellect, and about individuals. And in order to be a great leader, we have to start with our own transformation. And when we've done that work, we can be the transformational relationship that others need in order to allow them this space to grow and to realize their full potential. You may be the only transformational relationship that someone ever has, right? And so give that some thought. Think about holding space for them to change and grow. So, as you're listening to all of this, if you think about your values, you think about your vision, you think about maybe some of these pillars, and you hear, in yourself, oh, maybe I need to work a little bit on my personal presence or authenticity, or maybe, my alignment and, trusting my inner intuition isn't really where I want it to be. Maybe I need to awaken some creativity, some spark, and ignite vision. Those are places that I love to help people. And, I am more than happy to share resources about transformational leadership with you. If that's something that's intriguing to you, I am happy to get on the phone for a half hour and just kind of talk about what might make sense for you in the new year, and what direction might be useful. And, if you're interested, so I'm not taking any clients through the end of this year, obviously. But if you want to meet, let's set up a little, quick call just to touch base and see what makes sense for you. I'm happy to talk to you about coaching in January. We have a ton of lovely things coming up this year. I'm so excited. Part of why I wanted to share all of this with you is that a little tidbit that I actually wasn't even going to share, but I'm going to share because I'm feeling like I should. So I am working actually on a transformational leadership program that I am super excited to offer to everybody. It won't be until probably mid-year, but if you are interested in this kind of work, you want to sort of get some clarity and some direction, you're not sure about the investment, you're not sure if this is the right thing, you don't even know if you like me, that's cool. But I'm doing a free workshop. It's kind of my gift to everybody for the holidays. January 7th, Saturday, January 7th at 1 p.m. And it'll be a really lovely workshop that is not just a vision board workshop. It's not just a resolution workshop. It's not just intentions. It's actually a lot of reflection. It's talking about how to get anchored in what your vision is for this coming year. Talking about kind of your December woman, the woman you want to be next December. And what that might look like for you. So please sign up for that. I know Debbie's dropped the link in the comments. I would love to have you join us for that. I hope all of this gets you thinking. And as a reminder, we will be back here next week, but not for Lady Grey Live. It'll actually be a little holiday chat. And so I hope that you'll join us for that. And we can all say, Happy New Year to each other before we wrap up the end of the year. So thanks for joining me, everybody. Go be outrageous.